on this computer. I think we're recording. Yes, we're recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another of my JED Talks. I just get so excited about all of this. There's so many lovely people that I've interviewed, and so many lovely people still to come. I've got several booked, so you want to get your interview on my page, you better get in quick, because yeah, I'm getting booked up, and I'm just loving doing these interviews. Really, it really fills my soul with joy. I think that's how I would describe it. Yeah, it's making my heart sing. And today I am here with one of my new friends, Lorna Munro. Welcome, Lorna. Now I'm going to tease Lorna a bit here because Lorna is Scottish. And I come from the soft underbelly of the South and often don't understand a word my lovely Scottish friends say. So when I first met Lorna, I thought, oh dear, we're going to have a bit of a barrier here, a bit of a language problem. But actually, as I've got to know Lorna, and we spoke many times now, haven't we, Lorna, over the ether, and I now understand everything she says. And it sort of puts me in mind of my dear mum and dad, when they were kids. One of the first programs was a program where there was a brother and a sister, and the brother didn't speak very well and no one could understand him. And people were forever saying, "What did Horace say, Winnie?" I so often hear my mum and dad saying that phrase, because my dad's a bit deaf now and he doesn't hear what I say. So that phrase is reverberating around in my head. And sometimes when I'm in conversation with Lorna, that phrase creeps in and think, oh, what did she say? I didn't quite get that. But we're okay now. I think we've got it, Lorna. I understand your accent. And so Lorna's journey, oh my goodness, what a journey. And she has written a book, Living in 3D, Drugs, Denial, and Drink, Drugs and Denial. And I'm not going to say much about it because I'm going to let Lorna do the talking. And I've started the book. I'm nearly halfway through. And oh my goodness, sometimes you just don't realise what other people have been through, because I've met Lorna post her experiences that she's lived through the book. So I didn't know all this about Lorna until I started reading it. And I think, wow, it's amazing. Lorna, it's amazing what you've been through and how you've got over that and how you're now helping other people. So I'm going to shut up now and pass over to you so you can tell us a little more about your book and the journey you've been on.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. Thank you for inviting me to do this little JED talk. I love that. And yes, it's lovely getting to know you, and I'll try and speak slowly so that you can understand me, because I know that I don't have an accent like what people expect a Scottish accent to sound like. I remember many English people saying to me, "You're not from Scotland. You don't speak like you're Scottish."
Oh, really?
Because I didn't speak like that. It doesn't mean that I'm not Scottish. Anyway, so yeah, my book. Thank you so much for. I'll put my goggles on because I can see better than a vein. I don't want to wear my glasses. The book is about my journey through living with others' addictions and having an issue myself at one point after a serious car accident and being physically broken, which didn't suit me well, being physically broken, and having to rely on others who were emotionally unavailable and physically unavailable at times when I needed help to even dress this body that I live in. I needed others to help me, and they weren't around. And how that led to me being mentally broken, spiritually broken, and through the journey realizing how really there had been a lot of emotional brokenness there anyway, because I hadn't grown beyond a place emotionally myself.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it, that when you have an accident and your physicality is affected, that it's not just your physicality, is it? You have then got the emotional journey and the mental journey, and perhaps that leads to a spiritual journey too, which I know in your case, that your spiritual health is something you really work on and is important to you. So sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I didn't even know anything about my spiritual life when I'd had that car accident. I didn't know anything. I had been brought up, I'd been churched. So I'd been brought up with a religious idea. So I didn't even know what spiritual meant at that point. But through that, having that accident and then going to the gates of hell, myself taking, so I couldn't take the medical drugs that I was given. They made me physically ill, and because I couldn't move very fast because my body was broken, throwing up on my sofa and stuff after taking these heavy duty drugs, I was introduced to cannabis and other substances. That, you might do better with these. So I was like, oh, I'll give anything a try, because I was in so much physical pain.
Yeah.
So then I became hooked into that type of illegal drugs myself, but smoking. And so that became an issue for me, and alcohol then became an issue for me, because I'd always been a drinker. Coming from the Highlands of Scotland, you've got to be a good old hardened drinker anyway. So if you're not Scottish and if you're Scottish and you don't drink, there must be something wrong with you. So anyway, so the circles I was at, so it was like a weekend thing. It was fine. You work hard all week and then you play hard at weekends.
So it was like binge drinking.
Yeah. So I became a binge drinker. To me, I used to think there was something wrong with somebody that wanted to drink in the middle of the week. That my belief system told me that you work hard for your money and then you party and you drink at the weekends, and that's fine. That's okay. So that was my belief system at that point. And anyway, it led me to horrible circumstances, and because I was involved with people that did this a lot as well, so it led me to mentally break down because my children were involved in the home and amongst all that. And
and
sometimes
how old were your children at the time?
They weren't old. They were how old were they? So we moved here. They were only 5 when the youngest one was 5 when I had the car accident. And I was the passenger in the car accident. And so we were 5 then. But I mean, unbeknown to me, I was already grieving, even though I had left their father at that point, that marriage. I didn't know there was grieving process to go through any, loss, or the idea of loss. I didn't know there was a process to go through. I knew nothing about anything really. Yeah. So
yeah, it is 5, like 7 bereavement, isn't it? You still have to go around the grief wheel. Yeah,
absolutely. I knew nothing about that then. So I went out of the frying pan into the fire, actually, into another relationship that was very healthy for either of us. But we were like 2 emotional cripples trying to hold each other up. That was what it was like. So I've got 3 daughters. So yeah, they were 5, 7, and 9 at the time. And so they were brought into the midst of that madness, unfortunately. And and sometimes where there's an actual addict or an alcoholic, the people that are around them can actually become sicker than they are. They just delve into the bottle or whatever, and the other person can become even more.
Doesn't just affect the drinker, does it?
No, it affects so many different people. So that's basically what the book's about. It's the journey with all that, and then how I actually then came through that process. Thankfully, feeling quite.
So it's like 2 journeys in one, isn't it? The lifestyle you had that got you into that, and then perhaps the realization that that you were an addict or that you had a problem, and then the journey out of it. So it's maybe threefold.
Yeah, I was confused about whether I was actually an addict, or I knew it was a problem. But to come to the realization, am I an alcoholic? Am I an addict? We are all addicts as human beings to a lesser or greater degree. We're always on our phones nowadays,
Yes. Oh
we're
God.
all addicts. We're all binging on Netflix, but binging, so addictions in all of us. It's a human innate trait. This is just my belief for anybody that wants to argue. So, I believe that it's an innate thing within all humans to be addicted to something, and whatever that is, and that, we can have healthy addictions. So we talk of spectrums a lot, don't we? So where are you on that spectrum? So to a lesser or greater degree, we can fall into these labels and pockets. And that's just basically what I did. And I struggled for a while. So I just fell into, I went into a 12-step program. So for friends and relatives of alcoholics, which is called Al-Anon, family groups.
Yeah.
And
Was there a moment between the phases, maybe when you realized you had a problem? Was there a moment that brought you to that? Was it a sudden realization? Did something happen that made you
No, it was a process, I think, to that as well. There was a number of crises or chaotic dramas going on where there'd be police involved, where there would be, I'd have a black eye or whatever. And I met somebody then out one day. I had a baseball cap on and I had sunglasses on, and I met somebody who said, who put me in touch with this family group, support group, because he said Al-Anon, and I thought it was the short-term name for Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went, yeah, but I don't think I'm alcoholic. I had gone through counselling around that, and they decided that through following this diary in their protocol that no, I probably wasn't alcoholic, but I had a problem with other people. Actually, was the problem I had. So it was about fitting in and trying to be with other people. And so I suppose that was my moment when I met this man, and he said, why don't you get in touch with these people? That might have been my moment of going, oh. And anyway, from there, the 12-step programs have become hip and trendy through a lot of celebs joining them and breaking their own anonymity and coming out there into the public eye, I believe.
Yeah.
So
you think that helped?
Yeah, the principles of that program absolutely saved my life, definitely. Right. They definitely did. And the people in there, obviously, because I was just a mess when I arrived there. So people had to love me back to health. And that took about 5 years sitting in these meetings. Took about 5 years.
Isn't that nice? There are people that are willing to love you back to health. That's such a lovely phrase.
They love you till you learn to love yourself, basically.
Oh.
Yeah. Because they've walked a similar journey. They can say they've probably been in my shoes. They can't say I know totally how you feel, but they can understand you. They've been there, done it. T-shirts. So yeah, that was the start of my spiritual journey, because it's a spiritual program. A lot of people felt it was religious because God is mentioned in there, but the God turns out to be whatever you perceive that, whatever you feel that is for yourself, a higher self, a higher power, a presence, the universe, whatever. We've all got different names. They're just words at the end of the day. Aren't they? They're just words. It's just a language that we can get triggered by. So I love playing with words. I love changing words and changing.
Yeah, me too. Language. Yeah. So, I guess I was brought up to think God was a man with a big white beard and a staff, and he sat on the cloud and looked down on us. And to some degree, my God does still look like that, but it is my own personal God. That's just how I perceive my belief system, as it were.
We all call out, don't we, at some point? Like me, for instance, I mentioned in the book that I was sitting in this meeting going, oh God, help me. They're all nut jobs. I was like, duh, that was a bit ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So but eventually, and I wanted to run for the hills at that time, but thankfully something filtered through to my psyche for me to finally listen to somebody else and to learn real active listening to others. I learned in there, and there's no talking stick or anything, but there was this silence while everybody got their chance to speak. Even the minority has a voice. That's in the concepts. That's like beautiful, beautiful program to live these principles by. And I still refer back to these basics if I end up getting myself in a mental mess over something, I go, right, back to basics. It's just for today. It's a day at a time I've got. And I'll break that right down to a minute. If I'm in a mental dilemma over a simple decision, which I can quite often do, I'll bring myself right back to that place.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of your go-to tools.
Yeah. Even though I don't go there anymore. And I still would refer people to go there that are having issues in families or with their own self. I would definitely guide people to that area. And I would go with it. Well, obviously they can't go to meetings now, but they're on Zoom.
Yeah.
So they're on Zoom.
Yeah. So you went through the program, and do you say now that you're recovered from your addiction? Where would you say you are now?
Well, I wasn't actually the alcoholic or the addict,
Right.
but I tasted it.
Yeah.
There's a very, very fine line, and it's for each of us to decide where we come on that. What define it.
Yeah.
Define an alcoholic. I mean, I've got a dear friend that says define an alcoholic. Well, an alcoholic will tell you a lie when the truth would have been fine. But,
okay, so you've been through that whole process, and you've written your book. So what next for you? I know you're doing a lot of teaching, and what do you see for your onward journey?
The book came out last year, and it took me 7 years to write it. So while I was going through that 7 years, there was lots of changes, and I ended up going back to college at one point in my 40s. So anybody can go back to school anytime they like.
Yeah.
And that first year back at college was one of the best years of my life. It was fantastic. But the year before that, I was in the middle of going through my steps as well. So that was fantastic. It was a fantastic year. I met many friends. I wasn't the oldest in the class, and I certainly wasn't the youngest. The youngest was 16. The oldest was in their 50s at that time. So, life started opening up for me in all different. There was so many possibilities and potentials I could see where you could go. So I ended up opening my own business in Inverness, in the city I live in. I got some premises. I met a beautiful soul, a beautiful man that is now still in my life, who kicks my backside out of comfort zones. He's very good at doing that. Yeah. And I started running at the age of 49. I entered a marathon, half marathons, triathlon. So society tends to start writing you off as you're growing older in years, in age. However, I feel I just get younger every year, and I discover new things every year. And and now, even with lockdown, a few of us have discovered new tools and devices and quantum healing that is for me as an Aquarian as well. So I'm an out there person. I love all these new gadgets and technology. I don't like technology in some respects, but I love it for this because as you know, because you're playing with it as well. That's how we met, and with women, groups of women,
and isn't this interesting? And I guess we all hit that wall, don't we? For me, it was my late 30s when my brother died, and I started to look at life and death and the dance in between. And then a few years later, I got divorced, and I went around the grief wheel twice in quite a short time. And then I spent the next few years up to my 50s gathering myself, doing trainings, learning, mixing with other like-minded people. And I think it's only when I got to my 50s that I realized that actually I probably have got a message to share the world. What next for me? Where do I go from here? And I think that's what's happening to a lot of people when they're coming up to their midlife. They embark on something new because they can, and they've hit that wall where they just start to think, what's next? And this is where the silver tent that we both, Lorna and I, both belong to, has come into play for me, especially for women over 50, with or without silver hair. You can explore that, and it's exponential, isn't it, Lorna? Where the people you meet and the places you can go and find out about this and that and the other. It's everything. It's all encompassing. So I guess that's where our journeys have led us. That we're now looking. Well, what can we do next? How else can we serve? What can we bring to the world? I've watched Lorna, over the last few months growing into that, what am I offering, and she's exploring like myself, which is just absolutely wonderful. So I'm just going to let you have the last word, Lorna. Have you got anything to add to that, and what you're doing with the therapies? And
yeah, well, I'm doing the therapies, the hands-on therapies had to stop, but I'm still offering online. I do soul sessions where, I've got a website, and if anybody's interested, they can get that. Maybe we can put it in the links, I don't know. But yeah, I can still do that and meet, because Zoom's the way to meet people nowadays, isn't it? So we can hook up that way. And I've just opened a new Facebook page called Freaks of Nature, as in FUUE. So I've opened a little group. It's a private group just now, with whatever way that's going to expand and grow, I don't know. But it's just new for me, and I'm wanting to meet people that are like-minded and are interested in working with frequency, energy, and vibration. So.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you so much, Lorna. And we're both sort of freaks of nature, because Lorna and I are both interested in the healing, which works with microcurrent frequencies, which is what this is all about. So we're exploring where that fits in with our physicality and our emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, which is a journey in itself, isn't it, Lorna? So we've become freaks of nature. We sort of do with frequency. So if you want to know more about that, Lorna and I are both involved in that one. So fascinating. Thank you, Lorna. So thank you so much for joining me. And your book is available on Amazon.
Amazon, Goodreads. I think it's on 70 platforms out there. You can get it in Waterstones now as well. So,
yeah, and have a read. It's written in English, not Scottish. So I understand.
Not a Scottish theme.
So if you've enjoyed our chat today, then tune in for another one. I've got several coming up this week, and they'll all be out there in the next few days. So stay tuned. Lots of love.